Case statements. Yeah, it's one of them things that you kind of get used to writing in lots of different languages. But what can you do in DAX to replicate a case statement? What's a case statement look like in DAX? Alright lads and lasses, welcome along. Weekend work. DAX is one of them languages where some things, they've just got different names, haven't they? You know, it's not like completely different, it's just a different name. One of the peculiarities, isn't it? And you're going to find that in any language that you go to. So, one of the things you write a lot of in a lot of languages are case statements. So, you know, kind of an if this, then that, logic, that kind of thing. Nested ifs, of course, if you want to do nested ifs in Power BI, you can. They're not the most efficient though. Right? That's where you do something else. A case statement is then the right way to go. In DAX though, they're called switch. And the switch is the way you do it, the switch function. The switch function is pretty simple, but it's got a couple of peculiarities about it in terms of the way it's used and when you're going to do stuff with it. So I thought, let's cut an hour into Power BI Desktop, have a look at the X functions data that pulled in just for last week's demo. Right, I think that just does build a couple of calculated columns in there, and I think that'll help kind of go, all right, now I get what you mean with these switch statements. So let's cut an hour into Power BI Desktop and let's get cracking, champion. All right, so here we are, yeah? This is the data table that we've got for our data set. There's nothing special about it really. You know, if we go over to the data, you can see you've got the charts from last week. The main thing that you need to figure out with a switch statement is, well, I want to do something with it. Right? So I thought, well, a classic example is I want to put in a discount. Right? And we'll put the discount in against, let's do it against the sales price here, right? Be the easiest thing to do. Do it against the sales price, and we could say we've got the deal size. So if it's small, let's have one. If it's medium, let's have a different one. If it's large, let's do a different discount. So how would we do that? Yeah, so it's kind of a case statement, isn't it? So if this, then that. And I could write a nested if, so I could say if deal size is small, do this. If deal size is large, do that. Yeah, and we could go like that. So let's have a look. What would that look like if we were to write that in DAX? Let's zoom that in and let's start with DAX, yeah? So discount equals. So switch deal size if it's small, so if deal size is small, because that's the value that we're going with, then it's going to be 100% of the sales price, isn't it? So we'll go sales multiplied by, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy that. Multiplied by 1, if it's medium, let's make those different lines just to help make it a little bit easier. Let's multiply it by 0.9. Okay, and if it's large, let's multiply it by 0.8. Okay, and we've got a column there. So we can see here, if we look at this, this is large. For here, see that's discounted, right? So we've gone through, we've done something that's going to discount them based on the deal size, right? And that makes sense. So we've got deal size in there. So what's the problem? I didn't understand. Why am I making out that switch has got some peculiarities? Well, let's try taking this, but doing it a little bit differently, okay? What about if we wanted to say, if we'd wanted or if we'd needed to build a deal size column, for example, right? Which is something that you will often want to do with a switch statement. So we want to be able to look and see, is my sales price over, or is my sales amount over something? Okay. And this is another example that you'll find switch is used an awful lot for, to classify things. So we could do a new one. So classify. Switch again, right? Now remember, we said this one we're going to do sales. That makes sense, doesn't it? So if it's, let's see, if it's less than 1,000, say, let's make that tiny. If it's less than 2,000, let's make it small. If it's less than 3,000, let's make it medium. If it's less than 4,000, let's make it large. And the nice thing with this is you can have like an else function or an else option. So otherwise, let's make it huge. Okay. So we've written something pretty simple, haven't we? We've said we want to take the sales price or the sales amount, the sales that we've got for it, right? Because obviously we've got a price of each multiplied by the number ordered to get to sales. And we've then said if it's less than 1,000, make it small, medium, all the way up, and we can then have a huge at the end. Click OK. Oh, we've got an error. What's that error mean? So function switch does not support comparing values for the type of number. Right, and this is something that people hit a lot when they're getting into switch, and they go, well, I didn't understand. I'm not sure how to do stuff with switch now with this. Right? It's a bit of an oddity, really, because what you're trying to do is you're saying, well, I want to use this number, and then I want to compare it if it's greater than this, greater than that. And it becomes a difficulty. It doesn't work. The reality is, it's a simple fix, right? There's a very simple fix to it. Right? You just tell it, switch true. So if we change this to true, okay, so it's true, yeah? The expression we're going to use, it's true, whatever it is, right? Hit OK. Suddenly, you see we've got all the values in now. Okay, and it works. So the question is why that happens. And the error is pretty clear. You know, it's happening because you're trying to, you've got an expression which is returning an amount, but then it doesn't like that it has to then compare that amount and do an evaluation with it. So if you're going to use calculations like this, you need to do that within the context of the value that you're going to look at. Because effectively what this is doing is this is going to return a true or a false, isn't it? So this value here is going to be true or false. So what we're looking at is saying, where's it true? It's a bit of a weird one, but that's just how it runs. Okay, so we put true here, and then it's going to allow us to evaluate these, and it will come back and say this is where this one fits, because it will be true. If we do the other way around, where you're trying to look at the sales amount, then what you're doing with these is effectively you're evaluating that, and it's going to come back as a true and a false, which doesn't match with a number, right? So it's just, that's the problem. So switch, true, you kind of get used to it. It's a difficult one though when you first start to get your head around and go, I didn't understand. Okay, what you can do is you can use variables though to help you. Okay, so variables of course will help. Always use variables, especially with things like this, because of the way Power BI will run. It will replicate each of these measures or reevaluate this for each of those. So yeah, for it. So what you'd want to be doing is saying, VAR sales equals sales. Let's keep it different. Sales amount equals sales. Sales. Okay. And then we'd return that, and then we can evaluate this for each of these, can't we? Okay. So that's going to make it more efficient. So what do you reckon then? Switch is one of those functions that you need to become comfortable with it, right? As you progress on into Power BI and as you do a lot more with Power BI, you will be writing lots and lots of switch statements. You can't do what if analyses without them. Your disconnected tables rely on their capabilities. So you'll find that you're going to have to be able to use and utilize that. So get used to it. Switch is here to stay. You need to get comfortable with it. You need to be able to appreciate and understand when you need to use one versus the other. Okay? As I say, if you want to do that text evaluation, you need to kind of bring it back. In practical terms, when you use it with a measure, because you need to return a scalar, you're going to need to do an aggregation to get your calculation, to get your value back. So you might be doing value, you might be doing selected value, you might be doing max, min, sum, count, all those kind of things to get your value back. But you need to get used to the idea that if you're looking to do an evaluation, so like we did with the classify, that you're going to have to be able to split that down into something that's going to, well, if you're looking to do an evaluation, you're going to need to do a true initially and then have your calculation steps or your valuations come through at the different layers, the different value options for it. So don't forget, like and subscribe down below. Head on out to geordieintelligence.co.uk, become a member, enroll on some of our courses. There's more coming. The more people will get attending the courses, the easier it is for us to keep doing the videos. And don't forget, have yourselves a great weekend. Take care and stay safe. Ta-da.